The champagne flutes trembled on their silver trays as 200 guests fell silent. My son-in-law stood at the microphone, his practiced smile gleaming under the crystal chandeliers of the Riverside Country Club. He'd just finished thanking everyone for coming to his daughter's baptism, my granddaughter Sophie's baptism, and now his eyes found mine across the crowded ballroom. And of course, Marcus Chen said, his voice carrying that particular blend of warmth and condescension. I'd come to recognize, we have to acknowledge Thomas here, my wife's father. The man who spent 40 years, what was it, Tom? 40 years fixing air conditioners? A polite titter rippled through the crowd. I stood near the back, in my department store suit, the navy one I'd worn to every family function for the past 5 years. My daughter Rachel sat at the head table, her eyes suddenly fascinated by her plate. Retired HVAC technician, Marcus continued, warming to his audience. You know, Thomas, I told Rachel we should have seated you closer to the kitchen. More comfortable for you, probably. All these venture capitalists and tech CEOs might be a bit intimidating. I watched my daughter's shoulders tense, watched her reach for her water glass, watched her do absolutely nothing. Marcus's business partner, Justin, stage whispered from his table, "Does he even own a suit that wasn't bought at J.C. Penney?" The laughter was louder this time. My hands stayed steady on my glass of sparkling water. I'd learned long ago that stillness was its own kind of power. But hey, Marcus raised his glass. We appreciate you coming, Tom. I know the country club membership probably isn't in your budget, but Rachel insisted. Family's family, right? 200 glasses rose. 200 people toasted. My daughter finally looked at me, her eyes pleading something I couldn't quite read. Please don't make a scene, maybe. Or I'm sorry. Or perhaps I need him more than I need your dignity. I smiled, nodded, took a sip of my water. Then I walked out. The drive home took 40 minutes through Portland's late afternoon traffic. Rain hammered the windshield of my 2015 Ford F-150, the one with the fading paint and the dent in the passenger door from when I'd backed into a pole at Home Depot 3 years ago. The truck Marcus had once suggested I put out of its misery. My phone started buzzing before I even reached the highway. Rachel. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. A text appeared. Dad, please, can we talk? I turned the radio to classical music and drove. My house in Beaverton was small, a 3-bedroom ranch I'd bought in 1985 for $62,000. The neighborhood had changed over the years, young families replacing the retired couples who'd been my neighbors. My grass needed mowing. The gutter over the garage sagged slightly. I parked in the driveway, sat in the truck, while rain drummed on the roof, and finally checked my voicemail. Dad, Rachel's voice cracked. Marcus was he was trying to be funny. You know how he gets at these events. All his colleagues were there, and he gets nervous, and Dad, please call me back. Sophie was asking for Papa. Please. Delete. The second message, Thomas, it's Marcus. Look, if I came on a little strong, that's just my personality. Rachel's upset. And honestly, you walking out like that was pretty dramatic. We're family now. We should be able to take a joke. Give me a call. Delete. I went inside, made myself a pot of coffee, and sat at my kitchen table looking at the photo on the wall. Rachel at 8 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, holding up the first fish she'd ever caught. Back when I was her hero. Back before she met Marcus Chen at a tech industry mixer. Before she got swept up in his world of startup capital and IPO dreams. Before she started using words like optics and networking and strategic relationships. Back before she became someone who'd sit silent while her husband mocked her father in front of 200 people. My phone buzzed again. This time, I answered. Dad? Rachel's voice was thick with tears. Thank God. Listen, I need to see you. Can I come over? It's late, Rachel. It's 6:30. I'm tired. Silence stretched between us. Then, he didn't mean it. You know he didn't mean it. He said it, though. He was showing off. That's all. You know how important this event was for his business. His business. I laughed, short and sharp. His business that you keep telling me is revolutionizing commercial real estate technology. The one that keeps needing just a little more capital. Dad. The one he asked me to invest in last month. $20,000. Said it was a sure thing. Her silence Was confirmation enough? I told him I didn't have that kind of money lying around, I continued. Told him I was just a retired HVAC guy on a fixed income. Remember what he said? Dad, please. He said, well, maybe you should have planned better for retirement, Tom. And then he suggested I could take out a home equity loan on this house, the house I bought before he was born. He's under a lot of pressure, Rachel said quietly. The Series B funding fell through, and the investors are getting nervous, and so he humiliates me at his daughter's baptism to feel like a big man in front of his colleagues. That's not fair, isn't it? Another long silence. Rain pattered against the kitchen window. Are you coming to Sunday dinner? Rachel asked finally. At our place? Sophie really wants to see you. I'll think about it. Dad. I hung up. For 2 weeks, I didn't answer their calls. Not Rachel's tearful voicemails, not Marcus's increasingly irritated messages, not even the text from my granddaughter Sophie that Rachel had clearly dictated. Papa, I miss you. Love, Sophie. I went to my storage unit in Hillsborough on a Tuesday morning. The unit was climate-controlled, 10 by 20, and cost me $200 a month. I'd been renting it for 30 years. Inside were filing cabinets. 12 of them, industrial-grade, fireproof. I pulled the key from my wallet, the small brass one I'd carried since 1994, and unlocked the first cabinet. Property deeds. 47 of them. Commercial buildings across Portland, Beaverton, Lake Oswego, and West Lynn. The first one I'd bought in 1988, a small office building in northeast Portland for $90,000. Now worth $3.2 million. The HVAC business had been good cover. People saw the truck, saw the uniform, saw the service calls, and assumed that was all there was. They didn't see the rental income, the property appreciation, the quiet acquisitions during the 2008 recession when everyone else was panicking. The second filing cabinet held stock certificates and brokerage statements. The third held documents from my various LLCs. The fourth, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Thomas Barrett? Speaking. Mr. Barrett, this is Detective Sarah Morrison with the Portland Police Bureau's Financial Crimes Unit. I need to ask you some questions about your son-in-law, Marcus Chen. I closed the filing cabinet very carefully. What about him? When's the last time you spoke with Mr. Chen? 2 weeks ago, at my granddaughter's baptism. Why? And has he contacted you since then, requesting money or investment capital? He calls. I don't answer. Detective, what's this about? A pause. Are you aware of the nature of Mr. Chen's business, sir? He runs a commercial real estate tech startup, PropTech Innovations. Something about AI and building management systems. Mr. Barrett, I'm going to need you to come down to the station. We're executing a search warrant on Mr. Chen's offices tomorrow morning, and your name has come up in our investigation multiple times. You're not in any trouble, but we need to establish some facts. My hands had gone cold. What kind of investigation? Securities fraud, sir. We have reason to believe Mr. Chen has been operating an investment scheme. Multiple victims have come forward. We'd like to know if you've given him any money. I thought about the $20,000 he'd asked for. Thought about how I'd said no. Thought about how I'd told him I didn't have it. I haven't given him a dime, I said. That's good. Some investors aren't as fortunate. Can you come in Thursday morning? 9 a.m. I'll be there. I hung up and stared at the filing cabinets for a long time. Then I pulled out my phone and did something I hadn't done in 2 weeks. I called Rachel. She answered on the first ring. Dad? Oh, thank God. I've been trying to reach you. Rachel, where are you right now? At home. Why? What's wrong? You sound... Is Marcus there? He's at the office. Dad, what's going on? I need you to listen to me very carefully. Don't interrupt. Just listen. Silence. The police just called me. They're investigating Marcus for securities fraud. They're executing a search warrant tomorrow. The sound she made wasn't quite a word. More like air leaving a balloon. Rachel, honey, how much money have you invested in his company? Dad, that's not we're married. It's our money. It's... How much? My trust fund from Mom. Her voice had gone very small. All of it. $350,000. But that's normal, Dad. Spouses invest in each other's businesses all the time. That's... Did he ask you to get anyone else to invest? Silence. Rachel, your sister, Aunt Linda. She put in $50,000 last year, and Mom's brother, Uncle Rob, invested $100,000 about 6 months ago. But Dad, this has to be a mistake. Marcus wouldn't. I closed my eyes. When did he last show you the company's financial statements? He handles all that. I don't really understand the technical side. Rachel, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. When's the last time you actually visited his office? Not just picked him up outside. Actually went inside. A longer silence. Rachel? He says it's a secure facility. Because of the proprietary technology. Only employees with clearance can. She stopped. Oh God. Pack a bag. You and Sophie. Come stay with me for a few days. I can't just leave. Marcus is about to be arrested. The words came out harder than I'd intended. And if you're living in that house, when they come with handcuffs, Sophie will see it. She's 3 years old. Do you want that to be her memory? I heard her breathing on the other end. Sharp, quick breaths that might have been the start of crying. Dad, this has to be wrong. We just bought the house in Lake Oswego. We have the Tesla. We're members at the country club. You don't have those things if you're running some kind of scam. Yes, I said quietly. You do. That's exactly what you have. It's called a Ponzi scheme, honey. New investor money pays for the lifestyle that attracts more investors. It works great until it doesn't. I need to call him. Don't. He's my husband. Who humiliated your father in front of 200 people while living off money he stole from your family? Rachel, please. Pack a bag. Come here. We'll figure this out. She hung up on me. I stood in the storage unit for another 20 minutes, then locked everything back up and drove home. Rachel showed up at 11:30 that night. She had 2 suitcases, Sophie asleep in her car seat, and eyes so red and swollen I barely recognized her. I didn't ask questions. Just carried Sophie to the guest room, helped Rachel bring in the bags, and made tea. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd drunk coffee and stared at her 8-year-old picture 2 weeks ago, and she told me everything. Marcus had shown her statements. Beautiful, professional-looking statements showing phenomenal returns. 15% quarterly growth. Major contracts with companies I'd heard of. Everything looked legitimate. She'd never questioned it. Why would she? He was her husband, the father of her daughter. The man who'd swept her off her feet at a networking event 5 years ago with talk of disrupting the commercial real estate industry. I called Aunt Linda, Rachel whispered, after I hung up on you. I asked her why she invested. What did she say? That Marcus showed Uncle Rob a prospectus. It looked solid. They did their due diligence, or they thought they did. There were references from other investors, testimonials, projected revenues. She wiped her eyes. Dad, I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. I sat there and let him mock you. I didn't say a word. And the whole time, he was stealing from our family, from your sister, from Mom's brother. She looked up at me. Why didn't you invest? He asked you to, right? You said he asked for $20,000. I took a sip of tea. He did. So why didn't you? Because I knew he was full of shit. She almost smiled. Almost. I looked into his company, I continued. Back when you first started dating him. Did a little research. Found out PropTech Innovations had no actual product. No patents. No employees besides Marcus, and one business partner who turned out to be his roommate from college. The office address was a UPS store. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened? Silence was her answer. You were in love, I said. You were 27 years old, and he was charming, and he talked about changing the world. What was I supposed to say? Honey, your boyfriend is running a scam? You would have accused me of being jealous, of not wanting you to be happy, of being some bitter old man who didn't understand tech innovation. I would have, she admitted. I know. We sat there in silence for a while. The kitchen clock ticked. Rain started up again outside. The baptism, Rachel said finally. When he said those things about you, I wanted to stand up. I wanted to tell him to stop, but everyone was watching, and all his investors were there, and I thought if I embarrassed him in front of them, if I made him look weak. She covered her face with her hands. I chose him over you. Yes, I'm sorry. I know. What happens now? I stood up, walked to the drawer by the refrigerator, and pulled out a folder. I'd prepared it earlier, after the detective's call. I set it in front of Rachel. She opened it. Her eyes went wide. This is every property deed I own, every stock certificate, every account statement. I had my attorney prepare this summary this afternoon. I sat back down. I'm worth about $47 million, Rachel. Give or take, depending on the market. She stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. The HVAC business was real, I continued. I did that for 40 years. But your mother and I lived on maybe 30% of what I earned. The rest went into real estate. Small commercial properties at first, then bigger ones. I was patient. I was careful. And I was very, very quiet about it. Why? Because people treat you differently when they know you have money. They want things. They expect things. They make assumptions. I tapped the folder. Marcus saw a retired HVAC technician in a cheap suit driving an old truck. He saw someone beneath him, someone he could mock to feel superior, and that told me everything I needed to know about who he really was. Rachel's hands were shaking. You could have stopped this. You could have warned me. I tried. Remember? 3 years ago, when he wanted you to quit your job and work for his company, I suggested you keep your position at the marketing firm. You told me I didn't understand entrepreneurship. 2 years ago, when he wanted you to invest your trust fund, I suggested you talk to a financial advisor. You said I was being controlling. She closed her eyes. Every time I questioned him, you defended him, I said, because he was your choice, your husband, the father of your child, and I was just your dad, the guy who fixed air conditioners. I'm sorry. You've said that. I mean it. I know you do. I reached across the table and took her hand. But sorry doesn't get Linda and Rob their money back. Sorry doesn't undo the baptism. Sorry doesn't change the fact that when it mattered, you chose silence. She started crying then. Real, gut-wrenching sobs. I let her cry. The next morning, I drove to the Portland Police Bureau's Financial Crimes Division. Detective Morrison was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who'd clearly spent too many years dealing with white-collar criminals. She asked me about my relationship with Marcus. I told her the truth, civil but distant, minimal contact beyond family events. She asked if he'd ever solicited investment from me. I told her about the $20,000. And you said no? She confirmed. I said no. Why? Because I looked into his company and found nothing but smoke and mirrors. She smiled. You're more diligent than most of his victims. We've identified 37 investors so far. Total losses estimated at $8.2 million. I felt sick. My sister and brother-in-law invested. My daughter invested her entire trust fund. We know. They're on the list. She slid a document across the table. This is what we've pieced together. Mr. Chen started PropTech Innovations in 2019. For the first year, it was a legitimate startup attempt. He had one software developer, some basic code for a building management app. Nothing revolutionary, but not fraudulent. What changed? The developer quit. Mr. Chen didn't replace him. Instead, he started taking investor money and using it to fund his lifestyle and pay returns to earlier investors. Classic Ponzi scheme. He'd show new investors the original code, claim it was nearly ready for market, say he just needed a little more capital to finalize everything. Meanwhile, he's driving a Tesla, living in $1 million house, buying rounds at the country club. How did he get away with it for so long? He was smart. He targeted friends and family first, people who trusted him, who wouldn't ask hard questions. He showed them impressive-looking returns. Those people became his references for the next round of investors. It snowballed. She leaned back in her chair. He's been paying your daughter dividends on her investment, 15% quarterly growth, according to the statements he showed her. With whose money? Uncle Rob's, mostly. And a few others we haven't identified yet. The room tilted slightly. My daughter's investment returns were literally stolen from her uncle. Yes, sir. Does she know? Not yet. We'll be interviewing her this afternoon. I rubbed my face. When are you arresting him? We executed the search warrant 2 hours ago. He's being processed now. I drove to my sister Linda's house in Tigard. She'd called 3 times during my meeting with the detective. I owed her a conversation. She answered the door in her gardening clothes, eyes red. Rob's inside. We've been up all night. Her husband sat at their dining room table, surrounded by papers. Bank statements, investment documents, emails from Marcus with subject lines like Q3 performance update and exciting new partnership announcement. All lies. 50,000, Linda said. That was our entire savings. We were going to use it for the kitchen remodel. Rob said we should invest it instead. Let it grow. Maybe we'd have enough for the remodel and a nice vacation in a couple years. Marcus showed us projections, Rob said numbly. He had graphs, testimonials, everything. He said the company was about to go public, said we'd triple our investment. I sat down across from him. Did Rachel know you were investing? She encouraged it. Said Marcus was brilliant, that PropTech was going to be huge, that we were getting in on the ground floor. Linda's voice cracked. Our own niece. She didn't know, I said. She was a victim too. She's his wife. How could she not know? Because he showed her the same fake documents he showed you. Because she trusted him. Because when you love someone, you want to believe them. Linda sank into a chair. The detective said we might not get anything back. That most Ponzi scheme victims recover maybe 10 cents on the dollar if they're lucky. We sat there in silence. 3 people who'd believed a charming liar because he'd married into the family. You knew, Rob said suddenly. Didn't you? That's why you never invested, I suspected. And you didn't warn us? I met his eyes. Would you have listened? Back when Rachel was glowing about her husband's brilliant business, when Marcus was buying rounds at family dinners, when everything looked perfect. If I'd said, I think he's running a scam, what would you have said? Rob looked away. You would have thought I was jealous, I continued, or old-fashioned, or didn't understand modern business. You would have chosen to believe Marcus over me, because Marcus was family now, and I was just the bitter father-in-law who couldn't accept that his daughter married someone successful. That's not fair, Linda said. Maybe not, but it's true. Rachel called me that afternoon from the police station. She'd spent 3 hours being interviewed, going through documents, realizing the full scope of Marcus's fraud. They showed me everything, she said. Her voice sounded hollow. The fake contracts, the shell companies, the way he moved money around to make it look like the business was legitimate. Dad, there is no PropTech innovations. There never was. It's just Marcus in a rented office space with a website and some forged documents. I know, honey. He used my name to recruit investors. People trusted me, and I told them to trust him. And now. She made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Aunt Linda won't return my calls. Give her time. I don't deserve time. I deserve. I don't know what I deserve. A pause. They're charging him with wire fraud, securities fraud, money laundering. His lawyer says he's looking at 10 to 15 years. I didn't say anything. I'm filing for divorce, Rachel said. Tomorrow. My lawyer says I should, to protect myself legally, to show I wasn't complicit. But Dad, I feel like I was complicit. I recruited people. I told them to trust him. I spent money I thought we'd earned, but it was stolen. You're a victim too, I said firmly. You were lied to. You were manipulated. That's what people like Marcus do. They make you complicit without you realizing it. I should have known. How? You're not a financial investigator. You trusted your husband. That's not a crime, Rachel. It's human. Silence. Can Sophie and I stay with you a little longer? She asked quietly. Just until I figure things out. The house is in both our names, but the mortgage hasn't been paid in 3 months. Marcus was using the mortgage money for... I don't even know. Everything's a lie. I can't go back there. You can stay as long as you need. Thank you. A long pause. Dad, at the baptism, when he said those things about you, I should have stood up. I should have told him to stop. I should have... Yes, I said. You should have. The truth sat between us like a stone. I was ashamed of you, she whispered. Is that awful? I was ashamed that my dad wore cheap suits and drove an old truck and fixed air conditioners for a living. All Marcus's friends were venture capitalists and tech CEOs, and I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be part of that world. And you represented everything I was trying to leave behind. I know. How can you forgive that? I didn't say I forgave it. I said I know. I took a breath. Rachel, you're my daughter. I love you. But love doesn't mean pretending everything's okay. You made choices. Those choices hurt me. That's a fact. We can't undo it. So what do? We start from here. Honestly. No more pretending. Okay, she said softly. Honestly, then. I'm scared. I don't have any money. My trust fund is gone. I quit my job 2 years ago to support Marcus's company. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and no way to provide for her. I'm 32 years old, and I have to move back in with my father because I was too stupid to see what everyone else saw. Not everyone saw it. 37 people didn't see it. You did. I had a reason to look carefully. Most people don't question the people they love. Another silence. What happens now? Rachel asked. Now you rebuild. You'll get a job. You'll figure out custody arrangements for Sophie. You'll go to therapy because you need it. You'll apologize to Linda and Rob even if they don't accept it. You'll do the work of becoming someone who doesn't look away when the people you love do wrong things. What if I can't? Then you can't. But you'll try anyway, because that's what adults do. I heard her breathing on the other end. Steadier now. I'm going to make this right, she said. I don't know how, but I will. Start by being honest with yourself about what happened. Really honest. Not the story where you're the innocent victim. Not the story where you're the terrible villain. The real story where you're a person who made mistakes and has to live with them. Okay, she whispered. I can try. Marcus's trial happened 8 months later. He pleaded guilty to 12 counts of wire fraud and 3 counts of securities fraud. The prosecution recommended 15 years. The judge gave him 12, with a chance at parole after 8. Rachel testified as a witness. She'd spent months working with prosecutors, turning over documents, explaining how Marcus had operated, identifying victims. It didn't make her popular with his defense team, but it helped establish that she'd been deceived, not complicit. Linda and Rob were at the sentencing. They sat on the opposite side of the courtroom from Rachel. They'd spoken twice since the arrest brief, painful conversations about legal proceedings and restitution. The warmth was gone. Maybe it would come back. Maybe it wouldn't. I sat with Sophie, who was now 4, and didn't really understand why Daddy wasn't living with them anymore. Rachel had told her an age-appropriate version. Daddy made some bad choices and has to go away for a while to think about them. When the judge read the sentence, I watched Marcus's face. He'd aged 10 years in 8 months. The confident smirk was gone. He looked small in his orange jumpsuit. He glanced back at Rachel once. She didn't look away this time, just met his eyes with something that might have been pity, or might have been contempt, or might have been both. Outside the courtroom, a reporter approached us. Mrs. Chen, how do you feel about your husband's sentence? Rachel kept walking. I stepped between them and the reporter. No comment, I said. Mr. Barrett, is it true you suspected fraud but didn't report it? No comment. Did you profit from your son-in-law's scheme in any way? I stopped, turned, looked at the reporter very carefully. My family lost $400,000, I said quietly. My sister and brother-in-law lost their life savings. My daughter lost her husband and her home. 37 families were devastated by this man's fraud. No one profited except Marcus Chen. And now he's going to prison. That's the story. Print that. I walked away. Rachel got a job 3 months after the trial. Marketing coordinator at a mid-size firm in downtown Portland. It paid $60,000 a year, less than a third of what Marcus had claimed to be earning, but it was real. She rented a small apartment in Beaverton, 20 minutes from my house. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a galley kitchen. Sophie got the bigger bedroom. Rachel took the small one. She couldn't afford furniture right away, so I helped her pick up some pieces from estate sales and IKEA. We spent a Saturday building a bookshelf and a coffee table while Sophie helped by handing us the wrong screws and narrating everything we did. Papa's using the hammer. Mama's holding the thingy. I'm supervising. Rachel laughed. I realized I hadn't heard her really laugh in almost a year. That evening, after Sophie was in bed, Rachel and I sat on her new couch, drinking cheap wine. This is weird, right? She said. Starting over at 32. Living in a place that costs $1,200 a month after I was in $1 million house. Is it better? She considered. The house was beautiful, but I was always worried about keeping it perfect for when Marcus's investors came over. I was always performing. She looked around the small living room. This is mine. I chose this couch. I picked that paint color. I'm paying the rent with money I earned. It's mine. That's not nothing. No, she agreed. It's not. We sat in silence for a while. I saw Aunt Linda last week, Rachel said, at the grocery store. She pretended she didn't see me. That's her choice. I wrote her a letter, apologizing, explaining that I didn't know, but that I should have been more careful, that I recruited her, and I take responsibility for that. I sent it certified mail so I'd know she got it. Did she respond? No. Maybe she will eventually. Maybe. Rachel refilled her wine glass. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure. At the baptism. When Marcus said all those things, you could have destroyed him right there. You could have stood up and said, actually, I'm worth $47 million, you smug prick. You could have humiliated him in front of everyone. Why didn't you? I thought about it. Because then it would have been about money, about who had more, who was more successful, who won. And that's his game, not mine. What's your game? Living according to my values. Being someone I respect. Money is a tool, Rachel. It's not a scoreboard. Marcus needed everyone to think he was winning. I don't. Do you think he ever really loved me? Or was I just useful? The question hung in the air. I think he loved the version of you that believed in him, I said carefully. The version that didn't ask hard questions. The version that recruited investors and spent money and made him look legitimate. Whether that's the same as loving the real you? I shrugged. I don't know. She wiped her eyes. I really fucked up, didn't I? Yes. You're supposed to say, no, honey, you did your best. You didn't ask me to lie. You asked me a question. She laughed wetly. God, you're impossible. That's what your mother used to say. We sat there until the wine was gone and the sky outside had gone full dark. Sophie's nightlight glowed from the bedroom. The refrigerator hummed. Traffic sounds drifted up from the street. Dad? Rachel said quietly. Thank you. For what? For not saying I told you so. For letting me and Sophie stay with you. For helping me move. For just being here, even after I chose him over you. You're my daughter. That doesn't change. But I hurt you. Yes. And we'll deal with that. But Rachel, here's what I learned in 63 years. People make mistakes. Sometimes terrible ones. The question isn't whether you made a mistake. It's what you do after. Do you learn? Do you take responsibility? Do you do the work to be better? Am I doing that? You're trying. That's a start. She leaned her head on my shoulder, the way she used to when she was 8 and we'd watch movies together. I'm going to make you proud again, she said. You don't have to make me proud. You have to make yourself proud. Is there a difference? Yes, I said. A big one. 2 years later, Rachel called me on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at my storage unit, going through files with my estate attorney, planning things, organizing documents, making sure everything would be clear when I was gone. Dad, are you sitting down? I'm 70 years old. I'm always sitting down. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I got promoted, senior marketing director. It comes with a $20,000 raise. I smiled. That's wonderful, honey. And I wanted to tell you something else. I've been saving. Every month, I put away $500. It's taken me 2 years, but I have $12,000 saved now, and I want to give it to Aunt Linda and Uncle Rob. I paused. Rachel, I know it's not close to what they lost. I know it doesn't fix anything, but it's what I can do. It's real money that I earned, and I want them to have it. Even if they never speak to me again, I want them to know I'm trying to make it right. Have you talked to them? Not in a year. But I'm going to. I'm going to drive to their house, knock on the door, and apologize in person. No letters, no phone calls, face to face. That's brave. Or stupid. Can be both. She laughed. Will you come with me? Not to the door. Just sit in the car? In case I need you? Of course. The next Saturday, I drove Rachel to Linda's house. She dressed carefully, business casual. Not too fancy, not too shabby. She'd rehearsed what she wanted to say a dozen times. I parked across the street. Rachel sat in the passenger seat, staring at the house. What if they slam the door in my face? She asked. Then you tried. What if they yell at me? Tell me I destroyed their lives? Then you listen, because they're not wrong. She took a shaky breath. Okay, I can do this. She got out of the car, walked up the driveway, knocked on the door. Linda answered. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw Linda's face harden, saw Rachel's shoulders slump, saw Linda start to close the door. Then I saw Rachel hand her something, an envelope. Linda opened it, looked inside, looked at Rachel. They stood there for a long moment. Then Linda said something. Rachel nodded. Linda said something else. Rachel started crying. Linda hesitated. Then, slowly, she opened the door wider. Rachel went inside. I sat in the car for 2 hours, played solitaire on my phone, listened to the radio, watched the neighborhood. Finally, the door opened. Rachel came out. Her eyes were red and swollen, but her shoulders were straighter than when she'd gone in. She got in the car. How'd it go? I asked. Rob's still angry. Linda's. Processing. They took the money. They said it doesn't fix anything, but they appreciate the gesture. She buckled her seatbelt. We talked for 2 hours. I told them everything. Every detail of how Marcus fooled me. How I'd fooled myself. How sorry I am. Rob said some things that hurt. Linda said some things that hurt worse. And I listened. I didn't defend myself. I didn't make excuses. I just listened. That's good. Linda said maybe we could have coffee sometime. Not soon, but maybe. That's something. Yeah. She wiped her eyes. Dad, I think I'm going to be okay. I think Sophie and I are going to be okay. I know you will. I started the car and drove us home. 5 years after the baptism, I hosted Thanksgiving at my house. Rachel and Sophie came, of course. Rachel brought her boyfriend, Daniel, a quiet accountant she'd met at her company's financial planning seminar. He drove a sensible Honda and wore sweaters from Target and asked intelligent questions about Sophie's elementary school experience. I liked him. Linda and Rob came too. It had taken 3 years and a lot of coffee meetings, but they'd found a way back to family. The money was gone and wouldn't come back. But they'd found something more valuable, forgiveness. Real forgiveness, the kind that acknowledges hurt but chooses relationship anyway. My sister brought sweet potatoes. Rob brought wine. Rachel made her grandmother's pumpkin pie recipe. Sophie set the table, very seriously, making sure every fork was exactly parallel to every knife. We sat down to eat, and I looked around the table, at my daughter, who'd rebuilt her life from nothing. At my granddaughter, who was bright and funny and kind. At my sister and brother-in-law, who'd lost their savings but kept their dignity. At Daniel, who treated Rachel like she was valuable and Sophie like she mattered. Should we say grace? Linda asked. We held hands around the table. Linda said the prayer, something about gratitude and family and second chances. When it was over, Sophie piped up, Papa, you're supposed to say what you're thankful for. Everyone looked at me. I thought about Marcus, serving year 6 of his sentence. I thought about the baptism, the humiliation, the silence. I thought about the 2 years of barely speaking to my daughter, the painful rebuilding of trust, the slow work of forgiveness. I'm thankful, I said slowly, that people can change, that mistakes don't have to be permanent, that family means showing up even when it's hard. That's a good one, Papa, Sophie said seriously. I'm thankful for mashed potatoes. Everyone laughed. We ate. We talked. We told stories. And when Rachel asked me to pass the gravy, she caught my eye and mouthed, "Thank you." I nodded. Some things don't need words. Later, after everyone had gone home and I was washing dishes, I thought about the man I'd been 5 years ago, standing in that country club ballroom, listening to my son-in-law mock me while 200 people watched. I'd walked away that night because I'd learned long ago that dignity isn't something other people can give you or take away. It's something you carry inside yourself. Marcus had wanted me to feel small, to feel ashamed, to know my place. Instead, I'd gone home and lived my life according to my values. I'd helped my daughter when she needed it, even though she'd hurt me. I'd been honest about the pain, but I hadn't let it poison everything. I'd shown up, and in the end, that was the revenge that mattered. Not exposing him, not humiliating him, just being someone I could respect, living a life that meant something. The dishes done, I poured myself a whiskey and sat in my living room. The house was quiet. Outside, Portland's November rain tapped against the windows. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Thank you for today. Love you, Dad." I smiled and typed back, "Love you too, honey." Then I turned on some music, low and easy, and sat in the warm glow of my lamp. Some people measure success in millions, in houses and cars and country club memberships. I measured mine in moments like this, in second chances earned, in family rebuilt, in a granddaughter who knew her. Papa would always show up. Marcus had called me a retired handyman who couldn't dress properly. He wasn't wrong about the clothes, but he'd missed everything that mattered. And that, in the end, was his loss, not mine.